Hello.
Hello again.
Welcome to day 4.
Day 4.
Reading the Book of Numbers.
And we read it, that's for sure.
Yes, we did. A long day.
It was a long day. Had a lot of other things going on, so had a while to get through to it and get back to this. So we're going to dig right in and get to our comments about the Book of Numbers and how it impacted us as we were reading it.
I was going to say, how long until Numbers are brought up, and it's verse 1. The first day of the second month.
Yeah.
So, and it's, only 20 verses until we start counting things and people and all the men aged 20 to 50. And
now, did you add up all the numbers to see if the math was correct?
Did you?
No, I didn't bother.
I did. It says they count all the tribes, and then it says how many are in each tribe, and it says 603,000 is all of them, except for the sons of Levi. But then later it gives a number that confused me.
I tried to look back.
I went back and I understood why it gave that number.
Okay, good.
Did you?
I did not. I didn't. I looked at it and said, "Wow, that's weird." Considering I was having, I had a very busy day and it was difficult making it through the Book of Numbers.
Yeah.
I didn't take the time to go back and say, why is it that it looked like, for instance, for one of the tribes, I think Reuben, in one place it said it was a certain number, and in the next place it was like twice that.
Yeah. So that actually brings me to my first question, which is, the reason is because it's combining some tribes. And so that's why I noticed it with the tribe of Judah. It says Judah is going to be to the west of the temple or the tabernacle.
Right.
And it says, in the beginning it says Judah only has 20,000 or whatever. 60,000, however many it is. And then later it says 180,000. I'm that's way more.
Right.
But it was just they combined some tribes. And so it says Judah and some of the other tribes are going to be in this area. But I did have a question while I was reading this. Without looking, now we've read, 4 books of the Bible. We've seen the names of the tribes of Israel a few times. How many can you name off the top of your head?
Yeah, a couple.
Go for it.
Reuben, Simeon, Gad, Judah. Manasseh. I have to scratch too much to get another one.
You get 5. And Manasseh is one, and it's not even a tribe of Judah. Joseph is the tribe, and Manasseh is a son.
Yeah. Well,
and Ephraim is his other son. And Joseph, of course, is particularly blessed by being not the youngest, but the second youngest, and having his 2 sons blessed by Jacob as well. But
Issachar, Zebulun.
Yeah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan.
I should have remembered Benjamin at least.
I just thought that was interesting. After reading the Book of Numbers, I thought, can I name all the tribes? And I forgot Issachar, because I guess I don't know anyone named Issachar. Asher.
Okay.
And I guess those are the ones I missed. Some of the ones are Naphtali.
Naphtali, yeah.
I guess that's all of them, right?
It's interesting. I got the first 4 that are named.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's probably because once I got those first 4 and, it says the numbers of the tribe of Gad, and then it says their genealogy registration. It's the same thing for all of them.
So it's the same sentence over and over.
Yeah, and so it was really easy to go, okay, I got that. Okay, I got that.
Mm-hmm.
It's
hard to think. I've never met anyone who is part of the tribe of Issachar and is really proud of that. I've met people that are part of some of the other tribes. I've met people from Asher and from Dan and Benjamin.
Interesting.
But I've never met anyone from Issachar or Zebulun.
I don't think I've ever met anybody who
knows what tribe they're from.
Yeah, knows what tribe they're from. So
I guess we run in different circles sometimes.
And in the numbers, the counting, at the first couple of chapters, the counting is for those age 20 to 50.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, in chapter 3, verse 28, it's the families of the sons of Korath, the numbering of every male from a month old and upward.
Yeah, for
Oh,
the Levites, that's
yeah.
how they're counting, from a month old and upward. I thought that was interesting. I have, you have grandchildren, but for me, they're my nephews and nieces, and interesting to think about, little 2-year-olds.
Yeah.
They're counted in people that are able to serve in the temple of God, in the sanctuary of God. And so that's what I was thinking about, is like, what would it be like to be a 2-year-old, to be a 2-year-old and doing that, but also just to be, you're now 68 serving alongside a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
What would that be like?
And
a 2-month-old even.
Yeah, although I'm not sure that they were serving, but they were the people who were going to be in the service. But
Yeah. But it's interesting because for the other ones, they're counting the people who can go to war.
Yep.
And so it makes sense that it would be 20 and older. It just seems like it is for people who were going to serve.
Yeah, and in verse 28 of chapter 3, it says there were 8,600 performing the duties of the sanctuary.
Yeah, mine says keeping guard over the sanctuary.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's an interesting dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure what it means, but
Yeah.
not
So
sure
yours
how it...
always says, you said performing the
Performing
duties.
performing the duties of the sanctuary.
Interesting. Mine always says keeping guard over the sanctuary.
Interesting.
And that was like one of the things that stuck out to me, is how the sons of Levi, that whole tribe, is keeping guard over the holy things.
That's they divide it up.
Yeah.
And some of them are taking care of the utensils, some of them the tent poles and all that. So keeping guard, that they were responsible for.
Well, yeah, it just stuck out to me. They're keeping guard. They're supposed to be the ones that carry it. They're not the people who are going to war. It seems like there's 2 levels, where the people who are keeping guard over the sanctuary are guarding the sanctuary from Israel. That none of the sinful people in Israel are going to get into the holy place. And the other people of Israel are all keeping guard over all of Israel, to make sure that nobody gets into their encampment. And I thought, it's a little bit separate. I guess chapter 2, the arrangement of the camp, is interesting to me, because I guess I wonder how they decided to split up the tribes in their arrangements.
Right.
And Dan is supposed to be the that's what Jacob's blessing is, that he's going to be the judge over Israel. And
Good memory.
I thought that was interesting. He's going to be that tribe is the last one to leave when they're leaving a place. And I don't know, I was just thinking about what are their roles in this, and like, why did they arrange it this way, and are there going to be lasting consequences for this? I don't necessarily know, but the tribe of Judah is, with the tribe of Zebulun, and maybe another tribe, and the tribe of Issachar. So Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun are together, and I'm just wondering if that's going to have consequences later, or if it's just a thing that is the case right now.
And I don't have an answer to that, so we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see if we even remember it later.
Yeah, I guess my memory of some later things is that the tribe of Judah separates itself from the other tribes, and with one other tribe. I thought it was Benjamin, though. So
when you get to the 10, the tribe of Judah, the split kingdom, there's 10 tribes that go one way, 10 to go, 2 to go the other. So it'll be interesting.
Judah and Benjamin, do you know?
I don't remember.
Okay.
In chapter 4, did you notice they use porpoise skins? I'm wondering whether it was the same translation for you.
Mine says goat skin, and it always has a note. It's had this a few different times. It says goat skin, and then it has a note that says, we don't actually know what this is. It might be saying dolphin skins. So it's interesting that yours says porpoise skin.
Yeah.
I would guess, not having been to Israel, and you've been there, when you were there, did you see dolphins?
No.
Porpoises or anything?
No.
It seems weird that they would have that.
I don't know. Are there any in the Mediterranean?
I don't know.
I guess that's, because I had the question of where'd they get these things from?
Yeah.
So, especially at this point, they're wandering in the wilderness.
Yeah.
And I suppose they could have gone down, to Red Sea or whatever, down into the ocean. Possibly.
Right.
Egypt does connect to an ocean.
That is true. But it seems unlikely because Philistia are the people alongside the ocean. They're the coastline people.
Mm-hmm.
And as they're leaving Egypt, God says specifically, like, let's not go through Philistine.
Right.
Like, they're going to turn around and be angry because they're going to not want to die to war. It turns out they want to turn around anyways. So I guess maybe he was smart in that, because if it was, we're hungry and thirsty and tired,
and we don't want to go to war,
we don't want to go to war, maybe that would be enough to push them over the edge.
So I think what the porpoise or goat thing points out is that translating work is difficult.
Yeah.
You try to do some direct equivalents, some dynamic equivalents. You try to figure out what could this have meant. And we're talking about an ancient language, which even though the Jews speak Hebrew today, it's not the same Hebrew.
Yeah. I mean, we speak English today, and Shakespeare is almost hard to understand sometimes.
Right,
so,
right.
That's only a couple hundred years. This could be thousands of years old. So,
right.
It's likely to be more than 3,000 years old. At least Jesus is quoting it from 2,000 years ago. So, what else did you notice?
Let's see. Verse 23, I noted.
Of chapter 4?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, from 30 years old up to 50 years old.
Yeah.
So we're both exempt. High five.
And then what does that say? Verse 30.
Verse 30.
Oh, that was again. It was also in verse 30. From 30 to 50 years old.
Mm-hmm. And then later, I think it says 25 to 50 years old. It was just interesting to me the different ways that it splits people up by their ages.
Yep. I thought I made a note that this comes another 4 chapters into it. So,
Okay.
Chapter 5, one of those chapters which is hard to understand, and which also I think has given way to some very unfair testing of sin.
Yeah.
That's where it talks about how do you the test for whether a woman has committed adultery.
Yeah.
And I think that we shouldn't embrace such tests.
Yeah. It's interesting, though. The test is not that unfair, it seems. The test is the priest is going to come and ask you, ask the woman, did you sin? And she'll either say yes or no. And if she says yes, it seems like she's going to have to drink the bitter water. The cursed water is what it says.
And I was thinking she had to drink it either way.
Mm-hmm.
But I would just be warned that we don't have the cursed water. We have no idea what this was referring to.
Yeah, and I mean, it seems kind of gross anyways. The situation, it seems like, is like, if she's committed adultery, we're going to try and make her miscarry. That seems not good. Just because miscarriages are tough physically, tough emotionally. It's just like not a good thing.
Yep. So I really like chapter 6, verses 24 and following.
Yeah,
During my ministry, I said these words to the congregation almost every single week.
Mm-hmm.
The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Mm-hmm. It's worth reading the book of Numbers just for that.
Yeah.
That's, and it's not a blessing given by Moses to Aaron, but by Aaron to the people.
Yeah.
That this is God's blessing upon the people.
Yeah. What do you think about the Nazarite vows? You have any thoughts?
I think that the issues of not cutting your hair and they're in one sense they're kind of meaningless to me because I'm not in a culture which makes vows like that. But it's also at the same time kind of neat that they had some outward symbols that said,
Yeah.
I'm dedicated to God for this time period.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I like what Tim Keller has to say about the Nazarite vows. I don't know if you're familiar with that at all, but
Not with what he says.
yeah, I just he has a video series. Well, I guess he's passed away now, but he had a video series he was making up until he was like halfway through the Bible, doing a book of the Bible, kind of similar to what we're doing. There wasn't one a day, but he was just connecting it to the gospel and explaining the book. And he talks about the Nazarite vows as a way to separate yourself to the Lord. I mean, that's what it says. It says, if a man or a woman makes a special vow, a vow of the Nazarite, to separate himself to the Lord. Now that's what Nazarite means.
Right.
The one separated or one consecrated. And it has these rules, right? Don't cut your hair, don't drink any wine or anything strong, or touch grapes or its seeds, and don't cut your hair.
Yeah. One of the things I noted is that the Nazarite vow is not a permanent vow.
Yeah.
It's, all the days of his separation.
Yeah. And it's interesting just the way that it is to be separated. But he talks about it as a way to be separated for God. That now you're going to take away all the nice things in life. You don't get to get the basic hygiene of cutting your hair. You're more likely to get lice. They're living in the wilderness. They're not taking like showers with shampoo and conditioner. Maybe they're pouring water over themselves and hoping that there are not too many bugs in the water or something. Yeah. But taking away the joy of drinking wine with your family, that not for the sake of drunkenness, but just wine's a little bit tastier than water, and definitely if it's water of bitterness, like the last chapter talks about. But and then don't touch any dead bodies, so that you stay separated and clean and holy. Tim Keller talks about that as like this way to separate yourself for God, but then that Jesus gets to be like a true Nazarite, the perfect Nazarite, that that Jesus didn't need these things to stay clean, to stay separated from God, because when Jesus touches a dead body, it rises up from the dead. It's no longer an unclean dead body, it's a clean, alive person. When even when the bloody woman touches Jesus,
right,
he doesn't become unclean, she becomes clean. And just that Jesus is so separated that just by touching him you become separated too.
Which is the exact opposite of what happens throughout Scripture. It's usually you touch an unclean thing, you become unclean.
Yeah.
But Christ is more like light. When light touches darkness, there's no more darkness. Mm-hmm. When darkness touches light, there's no more darkness.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting observations.
Yeah. So I just, I know Samson is like the most famous Nazarite, right? Where his whole thing is he doesn't cut his hair and God gives him strength for being separated out from the people.
Right.
So it's interesting because as far as Nazarite vows go, like this is a big, it's a chapter, but the other sacrifices I've heard of and maybe seen videos of people doing, the Nazarite vows, they're not like a thing that I'm hearing about in Scripture much at all. Like these other sacrifices do happen, and even Jesus talks about them. But for the Nazarite vows, they're not. It's basically Samson, as far as what I can think of as people that are doing.
Was John the Baptist a Nazarite?
Not as far as I know, but maybe.
Okay. Chapter 7, I just said lots of offerings.
Yeah.
Lots of offerings. And a long chapter. I mean, it's 89 verses, I think.
And it says the same thing over and over and over again. Each day a new son of Israel will come and bring a silver plate worth 130 shekels, or maybe weighing 130 shekels, a bowl on top of that, and both of them are full of flour, and
Yep.
a golden dish full of incense, and a bull, and a lamb, and a goat,
Yep.
and 5 more rams, and 5 more goats, and 5 more lambs.
I wonder if the first person was following instructions on that, or if he just set the standard.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Because I don't think it says that that he was told to, but he did, but that he brought.
Yeah, and I was expecting, going through the first persons, I was expecting that after that people were going to be bringing different amounts. I didn't know if it was going to be less or more, but one thing that stuck out to me is they have a bunch of animals with them, a bunch of goats and sheep and ox.
Yep, the number of animals that we see throughout the first 4, well, actually Leviticus, Numbers, and then Deuteronomy, the number of animals that are with the people of Israel they're massive.
Yeah, it seems like a lot. At least they're sacrificing. They sacrifice a lamb in the morning and at night. But maybe that's not a lot for, each of these tribes has, 60,000 people or however many. And so, 60,000 men. It might be that they all, they only count the men. And so it's, each of them have 120,000, assuming every man is married or has, some of the killed children are not counted. So when you think 120,000 are sacrificing, 2 ox, 5 rams, 5 goats, 5 lambs, it doesn't seem like a lot, because if you've been in a room or a stadium or whatever with 100,000 people, that's not feeding all of them.
True. So on to chapter 8.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 observations from chapter 8. In the consecration of the priest, this is ultimately what we're getting to. The first 4 verses are about the lamps, but then you get to 5 and following. You're specifically dealing with the Levites and the priests, and in verse 7, you shall do to them for their cleansing, sprinkle purifying water on them, let them use a razor over their whole body, and wash their clothes, and they will be clean.
Ancient butt shaving.
I know, right? and who's going to do whose? I can't see mine. I mean, it seems kind of weird, but they just shave their whole body. So odd, but there for whatever reason.
Yeah. And you think about, the Nazarite vows are don't shave at all.
Yeah.
Don't let a razor touch you. And then now for the cleansing of the Levites, we're going to take off all your hair.
Yep.
I assume that means like eyebrows, everything. So just thinking about their, the Nazarites are physically set apart in that, their hair is long, and everyone can point and laugh and say, haha, he took a vow. But now the Levites are set apart in this whole other way.
Yeah.
That now they've been cleansed and are bald.
Yeah. The other thing from that chapter, which I thought was interesting, is, as far as I know, the only place in Scripture where this is mentioned is when you retire, or when the priests retire, which comes at verse 25. At the age of 50 years, they shall retire from service in the work and not work anymore. I think part of the reason for that is that being a priest was hard work. We're talking about, sacrificing lots and lots of animals and all that was involved there. Not just taking the life of them, but
spreading their blood on the sides
and picking them up and taking them to the altar and
blessing people. And it's just hard.
And it's an everyday thing. It's it's not the same as being a farmer. There's some parts of farming which are everyday, but people are coming with their sacrifices every single day, and retired at age 50.
Yeah, we see it other places too, where other places in Numbers where seems like it's not a very rewarding work, like you're not getting paid, right? And so they have these tithes that are going to the priests, but it seems like it's not as much as the normal, the average worker might be getting. So,
yeah. Thing I noted about chapter 9 was that it talks about the Passover, and then some people come and say, "Hey, what happens if it's coming up to Passover and for one reason or another we're unclean?" Mm-hmm. And there's a mechanism for people to celebrate the Passover on a delayed basis.
Yeah.
So if you miss it now, God still makes provision that you can still celebrate Passover, which I think points to how important the Passover is and how gracious God is.
Yeah. What I liked is that Moses is asked a question. Hey, we're unclean. The Passover is coming up. We can't get clean by the Passover. What do we do? And Moses says, I never thought about that. Let me go ask God.
Yep.
And God says, that's a great question. You should have asked it earlier. He doesn't always say that, but in this case he doesn't. But he says, okay, yeah, you can tell them. Just do it a month late. And if you're trying to do it a month late, but you weren't unclean, we're going to break your bones. And he says, I also like verse 14. If a stranger sojourns among you and he wants to keep the Passover, let him. So shall he do. You shall have one statute, both for the sojourner and for the native. I just like it that it's not a situation where you need to be let in let into the people to do this. We talk about this when we do communion at our church, where we, at our church we don't have this closed communion where only members are able to take communion, and it seems like it's the same way. It's not only the Jewish who are able to celebrate God's great works.
Yeah. Excuse me. On to very brief in chapter 10. Moses goes to Hobab, the son of Ruel, the Midianite, Moses' father-in-law. Mm-hmm. So here it is, Jethro called Ruel again. Mm-hmm. No real understanding of why, but we're going to come back to the Midianites later.
Yeah.
But not until Deuteronomy.
Well, not exactly, but they do show up later in this chapter, or in this book. Really coughing a lot. Need to take a break?
I apologize for that. No, I should be okay.
Right.
Chapter 11.
Yeah, the people complain. It's interesting.
Are we surprised?
A little bit, because I thought we got it over with the Leviticus. I thought in Exodus they're complaining, but in Leviticus we mostly see what the Lord is doing, and I guess there's a golden calf and there's some things wrong, but it's a little bit surprising that the people are still complaining. And it's unclear to me whether these stories are the same stories from before or if they're new stories.
Yes, because as we read through, getting through Numbers and Deuteronomy, there is some repetition. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you wonder, wait, didn't I read the story already? Maybe.
Mm-hmm. And it's hard too, because I think for me reading through it, it seems like this is a thing that most people throughout all of time would be listening to this. Someone stands up in front of a crowd and reads it for them. So we're lucky to live in a time where everything's just printed for us and we can read it. But even 2,000 years ago, it wasn't that everyone could read. So in the time of Jesus, a lot of the disciples aren't reading, and they learn that skill later, or just that a lot of the people Jesus would have been talking to, they would hear this over and over again, but they wouldn't have read it ever. And so it makes more sense to have it repeated over and over, because when you're hearing something, you need it to be repeated more.
One of the things that was a key lesson I tried to put into my preaching was to write messages for the ear rather than the eye.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're writing for the ear, when you're speaking, people don't have the opportunity to go back and say, wait a minute, I thought we saw these numbers before. And then you flip backwards in the page, and once the words are out, they're out. And you can't go backwards. With reading, you can go back. And so you're right, that's part of why these books are repetitive, is that they were oral history, and oral history takes its place in your heart when you continue to hear it.
Yeah.
You hear the stories over and over again.
With that said, though, I think these are new stories because I think the names of the places are new. As far as I could tell, it says the place was called Tabora because they were burned up. That's a new thing we haven't heard. Even the quail come, we saw in Exodus to feed them, but it didn't come with a plague. And as far as I know, it wasn't called the Graves of Craving before. It seemed like it was a more joyous thing.
Where was Graves of Craving?
In chapter 11, verse 35.
Okay.
Kibroth Hatava.
I was wondering, oh yes, I remember that. I was wondering if you were getting to verse 4, where it says, the rabble who were among them had greedy desires.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to get more meat. Who will give us meat to eat? Now our appetite is gone. There's nothing at all to look at except this manna.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so bad.
Which implies to me that they've had manna for a while.
Yeah.
And the first time they're given manna is the first time they're given manna. So a little bit different. I liked that there are the 70 elders appointed to aid Moses. Just this whole chapter, give us meat that we may eat, is what Moses says to God in verse 13. I guess verse 11 starting. Why have you dealt ill with your servant? Why have I not found favor in your sight, that you lay the burden of all this people on me? Did I conceive all this people? Did I give birth to them? That you should say to me, take care of them? Where am I going to get meat? They weep before me. If you will treat me like this, just kill me.
Yep.
If I find favor in your sight, that I may not see my wretchedness. I thought that was an interesting perspective. Just kill me so that I may not see my wretchedness. Yeah. He understands that God is good and powerful, and even he probably understands that God's able to take care of them, but he's feeling so much weight on him that he says, please just let me die so I don't have to sit in the face of my wickedness.
Yeah, I marked that and said, this is the burden of leadership. If you are a true leader, if you genuinely care for the people, it is a deep burden that it often leads you to say, wretched man am I. I can't do it. I am incapable. Mm-hmm. So then the Lord sends help, the 70 elders to help him.
And I just liked this because, it was making me think of Elijah and Elisha. Elisha, of course, asks, he's told he can have anything he wants from God, and he says, give me what Elijah has, but double it.
Yeah.
As far as the Spirit of the Lord is concerned. And I just think it's interesting because Moses is almost asking for the opposite. He says, this is too much. Can you just spread out? I'll take the Spirit, that's fine, but can you give it to more people?
Yeah.
Let more people have this burden on them too, so I'm not all alone. And the Lord does it, and then Eldad and Medad are, they're prophesying. The Spirit of the Lord rested on them.
Yep.
And Joshua is going to go stop them, and Moses says, what?
I wish everybody could do that.
Everyone should have this Spirit on them.
Yep.
That would be amazing.
Yep. In verse 23, the Lord says to Moses, is the Lord's power limited?
Mine says, is the Lord's hand shortened? I thought that was interesting. Because I don't think about my power by the length of my hand, I guess. So it was just an interesting switch of how to think about things, of like, I think hand in this context, it seems like it's not like literally just the hand length, like the span that they would talk
Right.
about for how to build things, or the cubit for from your elbow to your end of your hand, but like how far can you reach, or just what can you do.
Right.
I just thought that was interesting.
Kibroth Hata'ava. That
Yeah.
is the graves of greediness.
Yeah, the graves of craving is what mine says. But it's interesting. They crave. God says, sure, I'll provide for you. I'll provide for Moses too, that he has other people to aid him. But if you're too greedy about this, if you're craving too much, like, you're probably going to get sick. It just reminded me of the other time when quail is brought out. God says that he's going to... Oh, no, actually just in this chapter. You shall not eat just 1 day or 2 days or 5 days or 10 days or 20 days, but a whole month until it comes out at your nostrils
Until you're sick of it.
and becomes loathsome to you. I just think that's powerful imagery. I'm going to feed you not just today, not just tomorrow, not just for the whole rest of the month, but you're going to be eating so much that it's going to come out of your nose. It's powerful, and then they get sick.
Yep.
Because they are wanting to eat like that.
Chapter 12, verse 3. Now the man Moses was very humble, more than any man who was on the face of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
This is somebody who talks to God,
Yeah.
whose face shines because he's talked to God.
Mm-hmm.
And his response is humility.
Yeah. Yeah, the man who's leading 600,000 people around. 600,000 men. It's probably, just over 1 million people. And he's very meek, more than everyone on the whole earth. And his 2 older siblings come up to him and say, hey, you're being a jerk. Why are you being so greedy? Does God only talk through you?
Yeah.
Can't he talk through me too? Aaron probably is feeling like, I'm the priest. Like, I'm the priest over all the other priests. I'm in charge of everyone. And Moses doesn't want to contend with them, but God does.
Yep. And what's up with Miriam?
Yeah.
Aaron at least is the priest.
Mm-hmm.
Miriam's just, not to be insulting, but she's the sister.
Yeah.
And, in that culture, she didn't have a lot of authority.
Yeah.
So...
No, I think she is described as a priestess.
Okay.
But,
Except she did kind of keep Moses alive as a child.
mm-hmm.
So there is that.
And she also seems like she's in charge of worship. At least when Moses sings his song, she's leading everyone else in song too. So
True. In the chapter 13, we have the 12 spies. Very common, understood story.
Mm-hmm.
My observations are relatively limited because it's so familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing struck out and said, wow, this is something I never really noticed before. I just noticed that there were 10 spies that rejected the land.
Yeah. I noticed, we talked about this also, that the 10 tribes, Israel is split, and there's 10 tribes and 2 tribes. And just that it's this way with the spies too. But it's not Judah and Benjamin, like I thought. In this one, it's Judah and Manasseh. Oh no, Issachar, right? What is it? Hoshea from the tribe of Ephraim. Hoshea the son of Nun.
From the tribe of Judah was Caleb.
Yeah, so it's Judah and Ephraim. So maybe it's not Benjamin. Maybe it is Ephraim. Or maybe I'm just totally wrong.
Oh.
I guess we'll find out when we read that.
Yeah. So then into chapter 14, guess what the people are doing again? Grumbling.
Yeah, they're rebelling against God. Like, can we just have someone else?
Would that we had died in the land of Egypt, or that we would have died in this wilderness. Why is the Lord bringing us into this land? This is all in response to 10 spies saying, those people are really big. Those cities are really tough.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Caleb is always saying, like, no, we can take them.
Yep.
Caleb seems to have taken to heart. Earlier we read that God says that 5 men will take out 100, 100 men will take out 10,000, 1,000 men will take out 100,000. And maybe those numbers are not right exactly, but it's a similar idea to that. So
now there are embedded in chapter 14 particularly some pretty cool statements about God. Verses 18 and 19. The Lord is slow to anger, abundant in loving kindness, forgiving iniquity and transgression, but he will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generation. Pardon, I pray, the iniquity of the people, according to your greatness of your loving kindness, just as you have forgiven this people from Egypt until now.
yeah,
That's Moses' prayer. The Lord is great, just as he declared.
Mm-hmm.
There are some choice verses that remind us of the majesty and the justice of God.
Yeah.
And then I said 39 and following.
Yeah, Israel's defeated in battle.
Yeah. And they're sad.
Yeah, because God tells Moses and Aaron, how long is this wicked congregation going to grumble against me? I'll forgive you guys. I'm not going to strike you down. I was just going to kill everyone and let Moses' family be the new tribe of Israel. But he stood up for you guys. So instead of letting you into the promised land, you're going to all die first.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because their response is like, oh, if we're going to die first, like, okay, God is on our side. He does love us. He did forgive us. Let's go take the battle that we originally should have done.
And Moses says, don't do that. You're going to lose.
Yeah.
And then they lose.
So it's interesting how quickly so many of them, it seems, die.
Yeah.
That, because what it says is all the people that are of fighting age, anyone 20 and older, they're just going to have to die first.
Yeah.
So then they go to battle, and a bunch of them do die.
Yep. Chapter 15, again, verse 16. There is one law and one ordinance for you and for the alien who sojourns with you.
Yeah.
That sense of equality. God has the same expectations for everybody.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was interesting. The Sabbath breaker is executed.
Yeah.
He's just found gathering sticks. Probably he's chopping logs for a fire, because it doesn't seem like just picking up sticks off the ground is against God's will, but doing hard labor. So.
Yeah. The cost of breaking the commands is pretty high.
Yeah.
It's pretty high. And it's even high when you do it unwittingly. Verse 22. When you unwittingly fail and do not observe all these commands that the Lord has spoken to Moses, even all that the Lord has commanded you through Moses, from the day when the Lord gave commandments and onward through your generations, then it shall be, if it is done unintentionally, without the knowledge of the congregation, that the congregation shall offer one bull. We tend to think, well, ignorance of the law is okay, but
right.
It's no excuse.
Yeah.
That's, yeah. So 22, 25. The priest making atonement. When you make an error, I thought that was interesting. They call the sin an error.
Oh yeah, mine says because it was a mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting the way sins are painted, and how steep the price is for these things.
Yep.
It's also, to me, very kind language that the assumption isn't that you were intentionally sinning.
Right.
The assumption is you were sinning unintentionally, and someone told you were sinning, and now you're going to make it right. It seems like the idea is if you're doing it intentionally, you got to stop that. We're going to kick you out. And it seems like that's what's happening for the Sabbath breaker.
Yep.
It's the Sabbath. We're not supposed to be working. And yet, what did you do? You went out to go gather sticks.
Get to chapter 16, you got Korah's rebellion.
Yeah, once again, people want to take Moses' place.
Yep.
They say, Moses, why is God talking to you? Can't God talk to other people? And Moses, once again, his response is, ask God.
Yeah.
I don't care. In fact, I was just asking him just a second ago, let me not be doing this. If you want to do this, let's do this. Let's ask God. You take some incense, and we'll stand at the tent of meeting, and he'll speak to us.
And we all know we know the result of that.
Yeah, gobble gobble. The earth eats them up.
Yeah. Now, I went, interestingly, I pushed forward from chapter 16 all the way to chapter 20 before I put another note down.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, there's just duties for priests, laws for purification. There's not much going on. It's just sprinkle water on your face, sprinkle water over everywhere,
Yeah.
do some sacrifices. People ask if Moses is the right guy to be the priest, and Moses says, we'll ask God again. We'll see what God's going to do. Everyone get a staff, and
Yep.
we have Aaron's staff, and we'll just see who does God want to be in charge. Something's going to happen. We don't know what, but God is so powerful. He's going to know how to talk to us. Yep. And these almond branches that are Aaron's staff, they bud and produce fruit over the night, and everyone's like, oh, okay, I guess if he's going to make the fruit, that's fine. So I just thought that was interesting that it's an overnight sprouting of these, maybe it's almonds, that's what mine says, but it could be anything. So what do you have in chapter 20?
Well, chapter 20, we have the death of Miriam.
Mm-hmm.
And it just goes by real quick. Miriam died there and was buried there.
Yeah.
But they've run out of water, and it's the water of Meribah. And God says, take a rod, and you and your brother Aaron assemble the congregation and speak to the rock before their eyes, that it may yield its water.
Mm-hmm.
And Moses makes his a big mistake. He taps the rock twice.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't just speak to it. And the result of that is that Moses isn't going to go into the promised land, which seems rather high penalty, which I don't really understand. But it also shows how important it is to understand what God is saying and do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough because God is giving him directions, and the end result is the same as what God's direction was going to be. And God says, go get water from the rock. And Moses goes and gets water from the rock. But Moses got angry and, he strikes the rock. And maybe it was the striking it twice thing. Maybe if he struck it only once, he would have been fine. But it's hard to know.
Yeah.
Hard to understand. And then, of course, his brother dies.
Yep.
And
wasn't it 38 years after they were wandering?
It seems like it, yeah.
I think that's where that was spoken. But Aaron dies. And...
yeah, I mean, at this point, they're old men.
Yeah.
I mean, they were old men when they started. They were already 80 and 83. So we are going to honor their faces, but we have to understand they were going for a long time.
Yep.
And I imagine it's tough to wander the wilderness like that and be in charge of so many people.
Yep. And, of course, 21, what did the people do again? They spoke against God and Moses. Mm-hmm. Why have you brought us out of Egypt? To die in the wilderness? There's no food, no water. We loathe this miserable food. That's interesting. There's no food.
Yeah.
We loathe this food.
Yeah.
They're getting fed from heaven.
Right.
And they're just sick of eating the same thing over and over again.
Not enough preservatives in it for them. I thought it's interesting, just this whole thing that, like, they aren't supposed to be making these idols at all, but now God directly tells Moses, build a bronze serpent.
Yeah.
And post it up somewhere in the middle. And when people look at it, they can live.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing.
I guess it's interesting, a bronze serpent, and set it on a pole. So it's not, like, attached to the pole, or it's not, like, the pole isn't part of the serpent.
And it becomes a symbol of medical workers.
Yeah.
The serpent on a pole.
Mm-hmm. And to me, it also gives the sort of imagery that, like, that's who Jesus is. That he is set up on a pole.
Yeah.
On the cross. He's put up. And then it's not that we have to go and touch his feet or that we have to do anything other than just look and see and believe that he'll heal us. And he does.
Yeah. Interesting little phrase here in verse 14. Therefore it is said in the book of the wars of the Lord.
Yeah, what does that mean?
I don't know.
And earlier Moses says, like, if you're going to destroy this people, that's fine. Can you just erase my name from the book?
Yeah.
What book? Moses knows that God has some book that he's writing in. And, like, he knows what's in some of the books. He knows his name is in there.
Right.
He knows that there's a book of the wars.
Yeah, kind of an interesting thing. And then verse 25 of 21. Israel took all the cities, and Israel lived in all the cities of the Amorites in Heshbon and in all her villages. Mm-hmm. We have this, at least I have this image that they're wandering for 40 years in the wilderness, and mm-hmm. they're living in tents, and they're moving.
And when the cloud goes up,
yeah,
they pick up and move until it comes down again.
And here they are living in cities that they've conquered,
yeah.
Which is, I thought it was an interesting dynamic that mm-hmm. changes the way we view the wandering in the wilderness.
Yeah.
So I got into 22, verse 18.
Yeah, Balak and Balaam. The classic story that a lot of people know. People, even when I was on campus, people would ask me about this.
Interesting.
This chapter. People would see, I'd be talking to someone about the Bible or about something, and somebody would come up and hear us talking about it, and they'd be like, "Why is there a talking donkey? What is that about?" I just thought it was interesting that was like the main story that people wanted to learn about or hear about.
That is interesting. I love the way that Balaam responds. Even if you were to give me his house full of silver and gold, I could not do anything, either small or great, contrary to the command of the Lord my God.
Yeah, I just think it's so intriguing. Balaam is not an Israelite.
Right.
He's just some random guy who loves God.
Yeah.
And it's just cool to me that it's just like, it's not documented at all, in this at least. Like, where did he learn about God? Or, who's telling him about this? Is Balaam related to Melchizedek at all? Like, Melchizedek's the priest of the Most High God. Who is Balaam that he is able to come up in a world and be like, yeah, I know the Lord God of Israel who has chosen that people, and I'm not that people, but right. I still can't bear to not speak whatever he speaks through me.
And of course, you mentioned the donkey sees the angels, stops, and eventually says, "What have I done to you? What have I done to you?"
Yeah.
I wonder if sometimes when we're really mad at our animals, mm-hmm. if somehow they have some spiritual insight that maybe they're barking because there's a reason for them to be barking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting.
So 23 is still the interaction between Balak and Balaam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he does 4 different oracle readings, and I like the way that he does it. Like, first he says no a bunch of times.
Right.
Because he knows that Balak is not going to like it. But then he says, okay, let's do it. And then he makes Balak build all these altars. 7 altars in 4 different locations to do sacrifices. And they do these 7 sacrifices. And then Balaam says, like, yeah, you're going to get destroyed, sorry.
Yeah. In verse 28:6 of chapter 23, Balaam replied to Balak, "Did I not tell you, whatever the Lord speaks, that I must do?"
Yeah.
That faithfulness, in light of, he could have been wealthy. He could have, just done what Balak wanted and been greatly rewarded, although it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
He could have done it and it would have failed, but he could have walked away a rich man.
Right.
So then we go on to, let's see.
I like Balak's response too. He says, I've called you to curse my enemies, and now you keep blessing them 3 different times. And Balaam says, I'll do it again. And Balak says, I'm not giving you anything. I'm not paying you. And Balaam says, I wasn't trying to get paid. I was trying to just live my life.
He tried to get away from doing this until you forced me to.
Multiple times I turned away. You have no idea how many times God tried to stop me.
Yeah. And the insights of Balaam, verse 23, he said, who can live except God has ordained it?
Mm-hmm.
So Balaam arose, departed, and returned to his place, and Balak also went his way.
Yeah. Yeah, for a guy who's not around for many chapters, he, I guess, has a big impact.
Yeah.
That this is a story people know about, and, his donkey is famous, so maybe people just like asking me because they like to ask, what about the talking ass in the Bible? Because often translations will say ass instead of donkey, but I guess when you say it that way, it does sound funnier. And maybe to college students, it sounds extra funny. But, it's interesting how powerful and how strong and full of integrity Balaam's word is.
Yeah. I found chapter 25 a little bit disturbing.
Why is that?
Well, there's the Midianite woman, and ultimately leading to verse 17, where the Lord says, be hostile to the Midianites and strike them, for they have been hostile to you with their tricks, with which they've deceived you in the affair of Beor and the affair of Cosbi, the daughter of the leader of Midianite. And I kept thinking, there was a priest of Midian named Jethro or Ruel.
Yeah.
And now, we don't, it just to me was this turn that seemed, it seemed as though Moses is turned against his father-in-law.
Yeah. There's something broken in there.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it's Moses turned against him, but that, even Moses invites his father-in-law, come live with us. Like, you can have all the things, you can be an Israelite.
Right.
We'll make you such as us. And maybe part of that is God's direction, saying like, hey, invite him to come. He's been a great father-in-law. He's taken care of you. He's even given you great advice about how to deal with people. Maybe you don't want him to be dying later.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's hard and complex, and probably hard and complex for Moses, who lived with these people for 40 years before he came back to Egypt, where he spent his time, raising his kids with these people, and now he has to turn around and say, but you want to worship Baal, but you want to trick our people.
Yeah.
So now we have to deal with that. We have to deal with the consequences of your actions.
chapter 26, chapter of counting.
Yep. I mean, it is called Numbers, so
Yeah.
at least it's appropriate. Like, it's not counting in, I don't know, the Psalms or something.
Chapter 27 talks about inheritances, and probably for the history of Israel, the significant part of that is where Joshua is to succeed Moses in verse 18, I think it is.
Mm-hmm. I like it that the Lord says the daughters of Zelophehad are right. Just because it's like, at least for me personally, I have this view that that women are put on a lesser plane, and that women don't have, that authority. But here God is saying, like, actually, the women are right here, and not that there's any implication that he's other times saying women are wrong, but just that, he is willing to say, like, hey, you should listen to them. Like, and they have good things to say.
They had enough boldness to come forward.
Yeah.
They weren't just completely shut out.
28 is offerings, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly.
Yeah.
And it just seems like, okay.
Yep.
I mean,
exactly.
for me, we're not doing these offerings. And, it's nice to know that it's for a pleasing aroma, an offering to the Lord. I like that idea, that we do things just to please God.
Right.
That sometimes it is to make atonement, but other times it's just because we want God to be happy. And, He's blessed us, so we'll bless Him in that sort of way.
And chapter 29 carries that on. In the 7th month, there's the first of the month, the 10th of the month, and the 15th of the month. Mm-hmm. And from 15th of the month through the 22nd.
Yeah.
That's an awful lot of sacrifices and offerings in the 7th month. Yeah. And I don't remember why the 7th month is so important. I just don't remember.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So, then chapter 30.
It's nice to think of an idea of a month of partying. It's just everyone's going to have a big feast, and everyone's going to sacrifice a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And
it's a month of worshipful partying.
Yeah.
And
it seems like for all of these sacrifices, it's not just, kill the animal and then let it burn, but it's kill the animal and sacrifice it to God, and then everyone's going to eat.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Chapter 30 is the law of vows, and it deals with young people making a vow, and daughters and wives, and how a father or a husband can cancel the vow, and when they have to. Interesting dynamics, because especially since we live in a society where vows aren't really meaningful.
Yeah, they're not that same sort of way.
Yeah.
But I like the idea a woman wants to make a Nazirite vow, and her dad says, no, you have to get a haircut.
And chapter 31, it is the slaughtering of the Midianites.
Yeah.
And that's going back to the other question of that's Moses' father-in-law. Mm-hmm. Ultimately coming to they have this war, and they're dividing the booty for the Midianites, and I like what happens when you come to verse 49. The officers who were over the army, they said to Moses, "Your servants have taken a census of men who are in our charge, and no man of us is missing."
Yeah.
They go to battle with the Midianites, and the Midianites,
they just don't do anything.
Yeah,
they don't fight back at all, or if they do, they are just
totally ineffective.
Yeah.
So then chapter, let's see, what are we at? 32. I didn't have anything on 32.
Yeah, I didn't have hardly anything else for the rest. It seems like it's just where are people going to be staying, and
so I made it all the way chapter 33, verse 38, where I marked. We've gone back in time, Then Aaron the priest went to Mount Hor at the command of the Lord and died there in the 40th year. Okay, that's why, because it was the 40th year. And I don't know why I said thought 38. There must be another place where
Maybe
it said...
is that where Miriam dies?
I don't remember, but anyway, he's been 40 years in the wilderness, and Aaron was 123 years old when he died.
Yeah, so Moses is now 120.
Yeah.
Since there's the 3-year age gap.
And then 33 verses 55 and 56. If you do not drive out the inhabitants of the land from before you, then it shall come about that those whom you remain of them will become as pricks in your eyes and as thorns in your sides, and they will trouble you in the land in which you live. And as I plan to do to them, so I will do to you.
Yeah.
Do what God says.
Right.
And let's see. The last thing I noted was in chapter 35, verse 30, which has to do with murder. And I really appreciated this. If anyone kills a person, the murderer shall be put to death at the evidence of witnesses, but no person shall be put to death on the testimony of one witness.
Yeah.
That is it should be our law about believing anything.
Right.
That if one person tells you something, consider it.
Yeah.
But make sure that it's not just his bias or his or her attempt to hurt somebody.
Yeah.
So, and thus ends for us our discussion of the book of Numbers.
Yeah.
And we'll get together for the book of Deuteronomy and see where God leads.
Yeah. Yeah, this is, now we're 80% of the way through the Torah, or maybe not the whole Torah, but at least the Pentateuch. So we'll see at the end of Deuteronomy, of course, Moses dies.
Right.
But, so I guess that's a spoiler if you didn't know that. But, interesting to see what is happening in Israel, and interesting to read it through all at once. It makes me think, I wonder what it would be like to, at least I know in Ezra, they read this.
Yeah.
And Ezra stands up in front, and for 40 days he's just reading through this over and over and over again.
And the people stand to hear the word of the Lord.
Yeah. And so I guess that's the sort of thing that I'm thinking of reading through this, is just what would it be like to be just some guy. Maybe you're in the line of Issachar, and you have your wife and your kids, and you're gonna sit down and listen to the story of Israel and how God provides.
Yeah.
And then you go out for the 7th month and you feast all month long.
And also, as I think about that, how easy it is to say, "Oh, I've heard this before." Mm-hmm. As believers, I've read it before.
Yeah.
I read through the Bible last year.
Right.
Do I need to read it again in 66 days? Well, I don't need to, but I'm going to.
Yeah. So we're having lots of fun. Hopefully, if you've been following along, you're having fun too. You guys have a nice day.